Perfect. All right. So I have been going through the book Daring Greatly, and I think I told you guys about it. Brene Brown. She's dedicated her entire studies life past 12 years to vulnerability and to the importance of being vulnerable and how basically it transforms who you are. It gives you, the courage to be yourself. And, in a world that's constantly telling us who to be and what to be, we're kind of born with these, mindsets and things that keep us from being ourselves. So I just kind of wanted to share a little bit on that and kind of link it to what we're doing and why it's important to kind of, to embrace that vulnerability and to realize that, especially even in Beachbody, it's not just about working out and it's not just about posting all day long, but it's about really allowing yourself to be who you are, to embrace that. Your life isn't Beachbody, but Beachbody is part of your life. And so to really embrace who you are. And so for myself, coming into this, at first I could post Beachbody all day long. But once I started to realize I had to tell my story, that's where it was starting to get a little bit I realized I was ashamed of a lot of my story. And I was afraid of what people were going to think. So, it's just been incredible in that sense, just because that's what it's done for me, is encourage me to just be myself. And that's obviously the MO of the whole entire company. So I'm just going to kind of go through this chapter that I went through and just cover some things, because it's just really touched me and it's really challenged me in a lot of ways, and yeah, so I'm hoping that it, speaks to you guys in some way. But one of the first quote that I read that was whoa, was only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our life. So getting down to the nitty gritty and really letting ourselves be seen and not trying to be these picture perfect images of what we think a woman, Beachbody coach, daughter, wife, whoever should be. So basically the opposite of vulnerability is shame. So if we're not good at vulnerability, that just means we're really good at shame. And unfortunately, that's really, really, really common in today's culture, telling women that they need to look like this, act like this, talk like this. With men, they need to be macho, never soft, never feel anything. So how, we get courage and how we live wholeheartedly is only through vulnerability. And that's obviously super scary. And even talking about it's kind of ooh, So that's where the term daring greatly comes. And so with vulnerability, it's basically the uncertainty, the risk, the emotional exposure. And that leads to wholehearted living, which is just facing the uncertainty, being at risk, emotionally revealing yourself and knowing deep down that you are enough, right? No matter what, you're enough. And shame, the opposite of it, is basically staying small and staying afraid. So staying behind the curtains, living the bit part of your life when you're supposed to be living the lead role. So an example would be, in posting and in inviting, I'm linking this to Beachbody because a lot of this has to do with the fears that come when we're posting or when we're wanting to share something, because immediately, she refers to them as the gremlins, those voices in your head that are saying, that sounds stupid, or no one's going to respond to you, or who do you think you are, kind of thing. I know that's those are the voices that I get, that I still get, but it all comes down to, am I just living from a place of, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and I believe that I'm adding that value, which, kind of ties into those positive affirmations, or am I going to kind of submit to these ways of thinking that I've always had? Because, this only really heightens what already has been going on. And so something that I want to really cultivate in our team is that wholeheartedness, that the vulnerability and the ability to be seen and to know that this is going to be a safe place for you guys, you know, the place that you can go to that, like, when you fall or when you know what I mean, you experience something, you can come and you can just feel like, I don't have to like be somebody that I'm not. I don't have to pretend, but you can be yourself. And that's just like my deep passion for all of this, you know? So basically, like, we feel and experience shame when we attach our self-worth to what we do. So I've experienced this in posting a lot and sharing and stuff like that. And you can see it throughout your life. But like, if you're attaching your self-worth to what you're doing, you're becoming a prisoner to performance, to perfection, to all of these things, right? So it's like you're basically, so you're posting something and you only get 3 likes, but you wanted like 30, and you immediately feel ashamed. And like a sign of that is like you feel ashamed, which means you've already believed that you're only worth as many likes as you get, right? And so I know that's like a common thing. I know it was for me, and it's still like I have always been a perfectionist, and I've always wanted to get things like just like perfect, you know, and it's horrible because I mean, I don't know if you guys can relate, but like nothing's ever good enough, and it's like you're running, and you're exhausted. And it's like, you know, reading this book and going through this like whole vulnerability thing, I'm realizing like, oh my gosh, like I've been afraid to like be myself, and it sucks that I have to like teach myself to be myself. But like that's what we have to do, you know. And like everyone benefits when we are, because you guys, like, if you're not going to be you, like there's no one else in the world that will be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're doing the world a disservice, as crazy as that sounds, you know? And so an awareness of your self-worth equals like strong shame resilience. Hold on. So you still want the respect, you still want the approval, but you realize that you're way more than what you're producing, right? So you still feel that, you know what I mean? I still may not feel the best because I got 0 likes or whatever, you know? But it's realizing that you can celebrate the fact that you dared greatly, the fact that you stepped out and like did something, and that's aligned with your values. So it's always going back to what your values are. For me, recently, when I'm like stepping out, when I'm either inviting to a group or I'm trying to follow up with someone who has literally given me crickets for the past like 4 days when they said they were ready, you know what I mean? Stuff like that, where it's like, oh, I could be the one that's totally bugging right now. I have to constantly bring myself back to that place of, I'm doing this because I am an inspiration to people, and I genuinely want to help people. I'm not trying to hound them. I'm not trying to harm them. I'm not trying to scheme them into anything. I'm trying to help them. And this is just me stepping out into my, what I believe, what I want, you know? And so it's like always reminding yourself, what is your value? What is at your core? And again, what is your why? You know, because me having the goal of wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and allowing Troy and I the freedom and time to like be at home together when we want to create our schedules, that's not just gonna happen, you know, like I have to do something in order for that to happen, and I have to just keep stepping out. And so basically so do you guys have pens and paper with you?
Mm-hmm.
So, I want you guys, and like, I know that this can be like tough sometimes, you know, but I feel like we are capable of so much. And if we can get through all this crap together, you know, linked up with one another, like it's not as hard when we know we have like a tribe of people that are here for us, that are ready to do the dirty work with us, you know? And so I want you guys to kind of analyze over, you know, the next week. We can talk about it next week on the call, or you can talk about it in the group, whatever you want. But like kind of analyze your thinking and those voices that you have. Like, what are you constantly hearing? Is it, I'm not good enough? Is it, I don't do this well enough? My writing sucks, or this or that? Like really kind of take inventory of like what she calls gremlins are saying, and understand that, you know, once we listen and pay attention to the way that we're thinking, and we actually take it in as if it's ourself and like that's who we are only going to act on that. And so as it goes one way negatively, it can equally go the positive way. And so that's kind of like my heart and my goal in all of this, is to help us all to go into a better direction in our thinking. I mean, obviously it'll help the business and Beachbody, but like this is just going to help and transcend into your life, into your relationships, marriage, all of that, you know? And so I wanted to read part of this paragraph that just really like stuck with me. So just like Roosevelt advised, when we dare greatly, we will err, and we will come up short again and again. There will be failures and mistakes and criticism. If we want to be able to move through the difficult disappointments, the hurt feelings, and the heartbreaks that are inevitable in a fully lived life, we can't equate defeat with being unworthy of love, belonging, and joy. If we do, we'll never show up and try again. Shame hangs out in the parking lot of the arena, waiting for us to come out defeated and determined to never take risks. It laughs and says, I told you this was a mistake. I knew you weren't blank enough. Shame resilience is the ability to say, that hurts. This is disappointing, maybe even devastating, but success and recognition and approval are not the values that drive me. My value is courage, and I was just courageous enough, or just courageous. You can move on, shame. So, you know, think about that when you're posting, when you're inviting people, like, yeah, there may be things in your mind that are telling you things that aren't positive and aren't good and aren't encouraging, but you have to remember why you started this. You have to remember that your heart is to help. It's not to like connive or, you know, force anything at all. Let's see here. It all just comes down to realizing that you're worthy, that you're worthy of love, you're worthy of that acceptance. And it all boils down to, you know, starting, like I said, with your self-talk. And so the whole untangling process is broken down into like 4 sections that I'll just go over really quick. But again, it starts with your self-talk. So really understanding and realizing, and that's what shame resilience is, because we can build up and recognize it when it's there, and then be like, yeah, no, I know what that is. I'm taking that and throwing it away because I'm not going to deal with that anymore. You know, and like I said, you guys, this has to do in so many areas of life. This is not just business. Obviously, this like heightens it a little bit because we're doing a lot of things that we're not used to, but this is key. So the 4 elements of shame resilience, and it's basically just practicing authenticity when you experience shame, and you're moving from shame to empathy, because the opposite of shame is empathy. First, it starts with yourself. So realizing and having compassion on yourself. Like when you mess up, when you say something you know you shouldn't have said, it's not like, oh, you're such an idiot, you're so rude, like you're an evil person. No, like, okay, I'm hurting. It's going to be all right. That was not the right thing to do, but we're going to move forward. You know, it's like really just learning how to like be your own best friend when we've grown up in a world that has taught us to kind of like be our own worst enemy. So the first step is to recognize shame and understand your triggers. So know when it comes on, you know, like back to like the posting or whatever, or back to, you know, inviting. Do you feel ashamed when someone says no? Is it that rejection that causes you to feel ashamed? Like, what is it that really makes you feel ashamed? Because it's always going to take you back to another point in time, you know, where you felt it, where you recognized it. And you have to be able to just feel it through. So just feel it through, keep going, keep walking, but allow yourself to feel it. Don't just run away from it, you know? The second one is to practice critical awareness. That's like the reality check. Okay, what expectations did I have for myself? What expectations did I have of that other person? And were they, you know, was this like, was this right? Was this not right? Like, what was it that brought me that feeling that way? And then the third thing, which is like really what I want to cultivate in our group, you know, now that we're adding new people and stuff, and hopefully Melissa will get on the call one of these days, but reaching out, right? So like, okay, this isn't a true story, but like, I just like sent this evil email. I meant to send it to someone else, but I sent it to the person that I really wanted to send it to, but didn't want to, if you know what I mean. And I feel horrible. Instead of stopping, or say you message someone and you feel like it sounded a little salesy and it was kind of corny and you're just like, oh, that wasn't right. Trust me, I've sent a lot of those. Instead of staying there and getting stuck in it and feeling like, oh my God, I'm such a crappy person. Like, I'm a salesperson. I am that person that I didn't ever want to be. I have to quit now while I'm ahead. You know, like, you get crazy up in here. You stop, you come into the group, and you just own it. You just say, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I just want to create that environment, you know, where you can come, you can be honest, you can be your hot mess self when you are being a hot mess, and just let it go. Let people come to comfort you, you know? And then the last thing is speaking shame. So are you talking your feelings through? That kind of goes hand in hand. But are you talking it through and asking for help when you're experiencing it? So that is a huge part of being vulnerable. It's reaching out when you need the help. It's reaching out when you feel like, ooh, I'm not doing so hot and I'm really not talking to people that nicely, and I'm actually just fearing a lot because I think that I'm not doing good enough. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a verbal processor. Like, I could talk all day long because like that's how I talk through like my feelings and stuff like that. So if you need to talk, text me, message me, like, hey, I need to talk, or something like that, you know? And this doesn't even just have to do with the team, you guys. This also has to do with your relationships, with your family, you know? Like I said, vulnerability, like it I'm going to read you this excerpt at the end of this like message, and it's just so beautiful what it allows. It's messy and it's like, you know, but at the same time, it's like, it gives you so much more of like a fulfilled life and a filled heart. And you guys, I'm still walking through this, which is why I felt like I needed to talk on this, because it's something I've avoided for a lot of my life. And I was taught kind of too, you know, like indirectly. So another part that I wanted to read to you, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Okay. Okay. In his book, Incognito, neuroscientist David Eagleman describes the brain as a team of rivals. He writes, there is an ongoing conversation among the different factions in your brain, each competing to control the single output channel of your behavior. He lays out the dominant two-party system of reason and emotion. The rational system is the one that cares about analysis of things in the outside world, while the emotional system monitors the internal state and worries whether things are good or bad. Eagleman makes the case that because both parties are battling to control one output, behavior, emotions can tip the balance of decision-making. I would say that's definitely true when the emotion is shame. So I don't know about you guys, but there have been times when I have experienced shame where I reacted in a way that I have been like, oh my God, that is not who I am. Why did I just do that? You know, like even in just our marriage, there have been times where I've said things because I felt ashamed or I felt like I wasn't good enough. And then I said something and it was like, oh my, why did I say that? Like, that was not nice. That's not who I am. And so like, I loved what he said right there because it's really happening. It's not like you're imagining it and you're not crazy, but it's just realizing, identifying those thoughts that you're having and realizing like, yeah, no, if I can't counsel someone on the thoughts that I'm having in my own head, like I should not be listening to them myself, like a lot of the time the stuff I say in my head, I would never in a million dreams or never in a million years, like dream of speaking that to someone else. So I just think this is the most important part in life in general, especially if we want to like be successful in this business, all of that. So just to like kind of close it up again, if you guys aren't yourself, like no one else in this world will be. And I know that you both have stories and I know you both have past, you both have things that you've been through and you've experienced. You guys, that is your gold. That is your gold. Me having ACL surgery, falling because I was on a ton of drugs and I was at like the worst point in my life, heaviest point in my life, feeling totally horrible. That's not the most beautiful thing. And that's really not the stuff that I want to be talking about. And I haven't even really talked about a lot of it. But that's my story. That's what's going to connect people to me. That's what's going to let people in and let them realize like this girl isn't just like, oh yeah, okay, post and look like whatever and work out all the time and be perfect. You know what I mean? Like that's not what this is about. This isn't about like, I love my life. Everything's perfect. Everything's always been perfect, So it's just really owning your story, sharing, is being vulnerable. And like, but the thing is like always coming back to the fact that like you are loved, you are totally and completely accepted. And again, my hope, my dream, and my vision for this team is that we'd be a family. Families, we have our things, we have our issues, but we stick together and we're loyal to one another. We're here and it's a safe place to come, to be yourself, to share what's going on in your life, to just encourage, to uplift. The world's so full of crap and people that don't do that. I just want this to be a place that does happen, and to be able to be something that becomes successful because of those values, not like we get successful and then we start to like be good. You know what I mean? So this week, I want you guys this is kind of like your challenge call to action. I want you to sit down and to think about a part of your story that you may not be the happiest with, or you may not feel like it matters. I mean, you don't have to like tell your deepest, darkest secret, but you know what I mean? Like part of your story that someone can connect with, and let it be something that you do feel like you're kind of stepping out a little bit, and I want you to share it. So on Facebook, like share it and tag me in it, or tag me in it, and just kind of like tie it in, and when talking about something that's like, I guess a sensitive subject or something like that, or something you're dealing with or struggling with, like talk about it and then tell us what are you doing about it, so like kind of go into like, okay, yeah, sure, so this sucks, or it doesn't have to suck, but say it does suck. What are you doing about, your mindset towards it? Because ultimately, like, we're in this to grow. We're in this to show people, like, yeah, you can have crap in your life, but you can get past it and you can change your mind and your attitudes towards it, And remember, you guys, like, you're practicing self-compassion and self-empathy. Like, this is going to get you so far, not just in Beachbody, not just in posting on Facebook, but in the way that you, like, respond in life, the way that you treat your family, your loved ones, and all of that. So that is the call to action. But the last part that I saved that I want to read is just like such a good such a good example of what I'm talking about in real life living. And I just love that she used this. It's an excerpt from The Velveteen Rabbit, the children's book. And it's all about living. It's just basically what it means to live wholehearted. Real isn't how you're made, said the skin horse. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Does it hurt? Asked the rabbit. Sometimes, said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. When you are real, you don't mind being hurt. Does it happen all at once, like being wound up? He asked, or bit by bit? It doesn't happen all at once, said the skin horse. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly except to people who don't understand. So that was like that's the truth.
Did you read that to your girls? Is that where you found that, or did you just find it?
Did I what?
Read it to your girls, or did you just find that?
Oh, no, this was in the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's all I had, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because this is what it's about, just being yourself, embracing who you are, realizing that, no one's perfect, but knowing that that's, where true life and, love and all of that happen. But, yeah, so do you guys have anything to say or questions?
I love that.
I know.
I'm so
I
glad.
almost started tearing up.
You guys think of anything? Do you feel comfortable sharing? I can